My name is Okafor Onyulogwu, and this is my story. I had been a soldier in the Middle Africa Colonial Army for years and had made my way up the ranks to colonel. Some of my friends didn't agree that I was working for the Germans, but in the end everyone had to, or starve in the bush. We never fought anyone but bandits, really, until the Russians came. We had set up camp outside Nairobi, and my regiment was the first to establish contact. Persians and Indians mostly, but a few Russians as well. They fought like lions, with determination I had never seen in our ranks. We hid in our trenches as their artillery opened up on us, and we were still dazed and brushing the dust off our faces when the infantry was already on top of us. We surrendered immediately. We didn't want to die for the Germans. The fighting went on for quite a while, and I had to stay with what was left of my men in a local prisoner camp. Then the Russian general came and announced that the war was over and we would go home to our regions. The lucky ones got on trains or trucks, but many of us had to march. I was originally from Lagos, and it took a long time to get back home, but I made it. The new government of Nigeria, we had our own country now, was calling for volunteers for the army, so that's where I went. They promoted me to brigadier and asked me to lead the 1st Mountain Division, since I had been stationed in the highlands for so long. What a difference my boys made compared to my old unit. They were proud to wear the uniform of our country, and we all swore to defend it. Then came the French, and then the Americans. It's always the same in Africa. Someone will come and take what you have. But this time we'd fight. We set out across the plains from Kaduna and headed north towards the desert. The Americans didn't know the country. They simply drove east because their commanders told them to, but there's nothing east but endless, dry grassland. We were snakes in the grass, hitting their columns and retreating. We took their trucks full of food and ammunition after they had passed. But the Americans weren't stupid. Soon they began hunting us, and we had nothing to fight their tanks with. Just as we were retreating back towards Kaduna, we met the Russians. Young men on horseback, traveling light. Someone had been thinking. What an experience to shake hands with their commander after we had fought each other just a year back. The Russians asked us for guides, and my boys were proud to serve alongside them to defend our country. I hear they've trapped the American tanks, and they'll join us here soon on the Western Front to take back the rest of our lands. We fight for what we believe in. We fight for our nation of Nigeria. The French capitulation has thrown the situation in Europe and Africa completely into chaos. While we nominally control some territory, there are large pockets of enemy troops around, which obviously are going to retake some of that territory over time. So we're expecting the French Republic to re-establish their exile around Algiers and potentially retake some of the territory in Africa until we've won the fight there. So that is very much not yet over. In Europe, however, there's not an awful lot of Entente troops left. The main French troops have capitulated, so now it's a matter for us to clean up the remaining pockets of resistance, and then begin the overall invasion of Spain. And that means we're going to have to have a look and see what we know about Spain. Not an awful lot. They have almost no troops, so we probably don't need, especially given the terrain in Spain, we probably don't need an awful lot of tanks here, or Sviatogorsk, because most of it is hilly or mountainous. There's relatively little that would allow these things to advance quickly. So most likely we'll be dispatching the mountain troops here, as well as some of the heavy tank divisions, but the Sviatogorsk might return to Moscow for now and actually get the remaining parts of their divisions filled, because they're still quite short on equipment. And then we'll probably head these east towards Asia, because I see a use for our tank and mechanized forces here significantly more than in Spain, and potentially in the end in Portugal. Infantry mostly, a few tanks maybe, but mostly infantry and aircraft should be able to clear out Spain and Portugal relatively quickly. And with Lisbon falling, that would potentially also be an end to the Portuguese possessions in Africa. That said, until that is the case, we are certainly going to get the Africa divisions to pick up the fight and begin pushing back the Portuguese. Now that we are controlling most of the ports. The railway connection is not yet quite complete, but the port of Luanda is definitely the next goal here that we can take on. And I think we might even begin the fight here already. Do we have any air bases in the region? I don't think we do. And we unfortunately can't build any. But if we manage to take one, there's one down here, but that is a bit out. So once the whole supply situation in the east is sorted, then we'll continue the advances there as well. In the meantime, we are going to begin shortening the front lines and pushing the enemy south. And we've got troops here from everywhere that we can use to retake territory that should technically still belong to Congo and shrink the Portuguese colonial possessions here quite a bit. That means we are also reasonably free to rejoin the war in the east. So as soon as the Kronstadt project is complete, the main thing that holds us back here is the refit of the Sevastopol class battleships, which is going to be complete at the end of February, and that means these ships are going to. And I'm actually going to. I will leave it in Vladivostok for now. These ships are going to then join the fleet. They're currently refitting in Vladivostok, so once they're out, then we will begin operations. We begin Operation Burnt Sun and make an end to the war in the east. Also because we're not going to be needing all the Air Force anymore. So for now, I've got a little bit of restructuring to do. We know that there are strong American forces in the region. We know that there's at least one American battle group operating somewhere around the Bay of Biscay into the Mediterranean. So not something that our current Mediterranean fleet here can take on, because we've only got light forces. So they do have to be somewhat careful. And the big thing that we're missing is scouting. So hopefully soon we are. How far are we away? Probably once we've got the advanced submarine hull researched, then we'll build some long-range submarines that can operate as scouts and that can report fleet positions to the friendly forces to take them on and eventually deal with them, especially now that the French fleet is most likely no longer operational here, but has been pushed back potentially also into the Mediterranean. So yeah, that's where the French fleet is. We see it. It's chasing convoys. It's chasing Indian submarines, not convoys. We've been sinking the convoy. So definitely the French fleet has retreated towards the Mediterranean, and it's going to operate here, which means that we also again can't really easily sally forth with the light forces that we have here around Sicily, because we're missing the firepower. What we can do, however, is we can bring the fleet that is in the north potentially. Once we've taken Brest, we might start pushing our operations further here out as well. Submarines still operating, and the destroyer group has unfortunately been intercepted by Canadian reinforcements. So the Canadians have brought destroyers over, which means that this little fleet here is going to stop convoy raiding and is going if they can survive the engagement, is going to return to friendly ports and hopefully repair. But for now, they are unfortunately being chased by 12 Canadian destroyers, And I think these are all more modern than what we have. So we'll see if we can get away. But I think one destroyer has taken a torpedo hit. So we'll see what of these old Egyptian destroyers can get away. But that fleet is somewhat diminished, and we might have to redirect some forces here to hunt down any kind of reinforcement. So operating bases out of Lagos, for example, might be an interesting field for the South Atlantic. The problem is we can't get the fleet out of the Mediterranean due to the French and American fleets controlling the entrance to the Mediterranean. So that's still part of the problem. The Air Force, however, is busy hunting down any kind of enemy shipping that we can find. And I think the English Channel as well should be reasonably clear at this point. So we're going to begin redirecting towards the Bay of Biscay and see if we can at least begin some air operations against enemy shipping. But yeah, most of France is under the control either of Flanders, the Italians, or the Rhinish Republic. So they will be dealing with that. We don't know how many reinforcements are in Spain. So the other thing we need to do is redirect our operatives who have been previously operating in France. We'll send one to Madrid, and we will send one to Bilbao in the north to start building up some information about the situation on the ground in Spain. And then we're still running the rescue operation in Japan. Hopefully once Gertrud has been rescued from Japanese captivity, then we're going to redeploy them there to begin investigations and see if we can find out more about. So we've got one operative currently at Tarasov, and I don't like having a single operative because if they get captured, then I'm lacking the network to rescue them. But hopefully once they're rescued, we'll send another operative over and have that under investigation as well. All right, so first order of business is cleaning up the remnants of enemy forces here, and I think Brest is not much going on in Brest. We've still got a Sviatogor unit that can be used to clear out enemy positions here. And we've still got one tank in Nantes that we can actually send ahead of things here. We've got a reasonably fast armored unit, some reasonably fast armored units here as well. I'm going to remove all the front lines at this point, and get that reorganized. I think we'll probably be operating with parts of the 6th. One full infantry army as well as the mountaineers. That should be enough to cover Spain, unless the Americans have redeployed significant troops over there. We haven't yet really dealt with the Americans, so our intelligence is reasonably low, but it is fair to assume that they have about 300 divisions, which is close to double of what we are fielding. So a fair amount of American troops in that region, plus the American Navy is relatively powerful. So these are things we need to take into consideration. We've got very limited capacity in the air along the lines here. So while the rest of the troops is cleaning up the remnants of enemy forces still scattered around France, we'll be building up radar stations as well as an airport in the Pyrenees and getting ready for the crossing here. But the majority of the troops right now is going to have to find their way to the front lines. So we will be having the Second Army. That would be the Casagrande Second Army of Guards Infantry. We've got the whole Fifth Army under Ungen Sternberg deployed there, and we'll have elements of the Sixth Army, some heavy tank divisions, as well as some of the mechanized units that will help out occasionally, mostly along the coastline, but occasionally wherever more firepower is required. But again, we might send more troops, but again, it all depends on how things are coming along. We also don't want to necessarily overload the supply positions. Toulouse is pretty much going to have to stem that itself, and Perpignan is pretty badly damaged. But we do have some supply in Bayonne, which needs to be connected. And we've got the enemy still holding positions north of Bordeaux that needs to be cleaned. So there's a fair few things to be done. In Africa, we are currently employing our troops to try and clear out the 2 encircled division as a Moroccan infantry, as well as the 269th Forester medium tank division. I think they are. Yep, that looks like a Sherman to me. We're going to clear these out and then potentially head east. I think we'll head east to clear out the remnants of the Moroccan and Portuguese forces here, or we'll head west and support the Nigerians in the lines. But I think clearing out the enemy positions first is a good idea. So we might do that and then return here. These troops are fairly mobile because of right now their maximum speed is not great, mostly because they are undersupplied and in combat. But in general, they should be. In general, if they're not in combat, even with poor infrastructure, they're reasonably quick. They're reasonably quick to get across the plains because they're traveling light. We do have some desperate attempts at trying to bring supply into the air zone. The problem is Lagos itself doesn't have sufficient supply, but we can probably improve the port in Lagos as well, somewhat. So let's get that scheduled and build that up a bit, because that would also be a good base of operations. And generally, building up the infrastructure in the newly created countries is a good idea. All right, we do have a few dockyards free, but nothing exciting. I could build a few more submarines, but we're also running, and we still got some steel. We're running reasonably low on resources at this point. So I think one of the uses for political power that I can have is to begin running some of the remaining industrial and economic projects. So that this would be oil. This is also oil. I mean, oil is not bad, but the other things are dependent on mining research. So I think once we're done with the whole naval sector, getting through the mining techs is something that has been neglected and needs to be done urgently. Also, we've got a few infantry techs that need to be done, and the potential for armored marines would be something as well. Okay, so for the time being, we're dealing with things, and we have 200 Navy experience. I'm reluctant to. I'll do this later when we're done with the ships. Everything else currently we've got enough experience for. We're pretty much done. So I do have to keep an eye on the trade situation where we are, because we are. Okay, yeah, we're getting a lot from the Italians, obviously, because we have preferential trade. In India, India doesn't have much to trade away in terms of tungsten, so we're going to ask Siam to send additional equipment, and that just about does it. I think. What are we importing? That was from the Italians. Yeah, but if I reduce that, it's fine. We'll leave that as is. It does mark it as too much, but we'll actually be under if we reduce that further. Okay, so this particular combat here is interesting. Right now, the second Urals division has to hold, against the attacks from the enemy armor. And obviously, they're not equipped to fight against tanks. That would be these guys, but these guys are at the completely wrong end of the fight. So unfortunately, we did not expect American tanks in the area. Do we have any more of them, such that it would make sense? No, I think it is one more American tank division over here. So it might actually make sense to send one more division over to the Nigerian front. And get them to support the effort, because we are currently somewhat struggling. All right, we've sunk some convoys in the Mediterranean. How is that combat going on here? Okay, we seem to have. I didn't get a combat report, but we appear to have lost. We'll send them to Lagos for urgent repairs. We seem okay. No, actually, we've got 3 ships out. No, we've managed to get away, actually, by the looks of it. So that's good news. We haven't lost any ships, but 2 of the destroyers are extremely badly damaged. So we need to complete that. Anyway, for now, most of the fighting is going to happen here. And we've destroyed one of the divisions, so we can already send the other one, around to assist against that tank division here. I'm keeping an eye on naval action just to see if there is anything that I need to worry about. There are some American destroyers operating here. Could we maybe get support from the fleet? Yes, okay. The fleet is intercepting now. So finally we're getting to the point that the fleet is active. Okay, Brest is about to fall. Here we have to make sure that we are clearing the rest and not leaving things without wrapping it up. So I'm going to send some infantry over. And to clear out the territory while we are bringing everything else back to the border. But I think we're pretty much done there. So with Brest falling, we will have an additional port available as well. And we'll see if we can catch these American destroyers that are operating here in the... Nope, we're no longer intercepting. Can we... This seems bugged. So I'm not entirely certain what's happening here, but we should be absolutely intercepting that destroyer group because they're still in active combat. The submarines haven't retreated yet. And for some reason, our fleet is deciding to return to the naval base, despite the fact that I have set them on strike force. I can force them into the area and see if I can get them back as strike force and get them to engage. Yeah, I have no idea. I've set the fleet to patrol. I've did a bit of research on the Quick to see if there were any active bugs. But I found a few things, mostly due to the relatively recent changes. But I haven't really updated the game, so I shouldn't have picked up any of that. However, this is the first time I'm playing Naval in earnest with the current version that I've pinned. So it could be that there are some bugs in this version that prevent naval combat from happening. I am generally reluctant to upgrade the base game since it can be save breaking, but I'll have to see if I can figure out why this is happening and if updating to a later version would fix that. Right now this is very irritating because it effectively means that the fleet is not engaging as it should, and if I send it back to strike force, it'll just return to its port. So very frustrating, but we'll see if these are like isolated incidents or if I can get them eventually to engage the same way that this happened with the Italian fleet in the Mediterranean here. That is currently actually on patrol in order to find enemy ships. But I can't do that with the full fleets because this is just going to burn too much fuel, even for Russia. So. Not going to be doing that. Anyway, we are almost done here. We still have one We still have one Spanish division, but most of the troops in the French region are done with their work. Once again, it seems that I'm not sure if my railway guns have been handed over again to friendly nations, but once the railway lines have actually been properly upgraded and repaired, then I will be bringing the railway guns and everything down as well. So for now, we are going to concentrate on the fight in Nigeria, where I believe we have managed to destroy both of the enemy divisions. Yes, we have indeed. So with that, we can actually now, I think I'll send, I don't know how many divisions there are, but they're probably pretty starving. So I might send 2 divisions over. We'll send the 2nd and 4th over and get them to clean up there, and the rest of the other 2, the 1st and the 3rd, can already begin positioning along the flanks to retake a friendly territory. There is a supply position here which I am aiming for, so we're probably going to approach this from the south. So the best line of approach would be from here, and then operational goal is to kick the French and the Americans out, basically. So we'll see if we can manage. I have no idea how this Gold Coast infantry got itself cut off here. Actually, it's not cut off, not yet. So we'll try to link up with the Gold Coast divisions and see if we can make a difference there. In the air, we're going to begin operating in this air zone. So which we are controlling anyway already. So I'm going to make sure that we get the transport aircraft there as well. And we are building up the port of Lagos for additional supply. Submarines are still hunting down Canadians, and we've had some success in the Mediterranean with aircraft, as well as in the Atlantic, sinking the occasional. Oh, we caught a few submarines here as well. So that's good news. But yeah, we sink what we can, and we'll see if the naval situation sorts itself out in the long run. We had expected the French Republic to return to the controlled territory of Algiers, but it seems that the government hasn't made it, and we have managed to capture them, which means we can now deal with the remnants of the French Republic as we see fit, which is great news. So that means the French Republic itself is probably, at least the French core territories are going to be liberated. We'll see what else we can. We'll see what else we can do with the African territories, if there's anything that can be created. There are a few African regions that we might be able to, like the Chad, that we might be able to liberate. So I'll go through that, and then we'll probably start with just basic occupation of the French Republic, and then liberate it as a democracy under the Moscow Accord, under the Moscow Accord umbrella, and that will clean up quite a bit of chaos, but we still have a lot of troops here that will eventually need to be removed. More interestingly, what's left of the French Navy, let's see what we've got here. We've got the République, the Patrie, and a few, these should be cruisers, and it would be very nice if it was, okay, it tells me what that is. So République and Patrie are battleships, I know that much. A coastal defense ship, not interested. A pre-dreadnought hull, not interested. And the Algerie and the Tunisie are old Weltkrieg era cruisers, so not particularly interested either. But I might take the République and the Patrie because having 2 reasonably modern additional battleships in the fleet would be a good boon for things. Okay, the African territories, the former colonial possessions of the French, have been formally liberated. Obviously, this still doesn't change the situation on the ground, where there are enemy troops involved, especially the Americans in Western Africa. The French Republic itself is currently under direct Russian occupation, and we will send the diplomats in to negotiate the establishment of a free French Republic following the return of the monarchy and the relatively brief period, a very chaotic transition from syndicalism to back to monarchy, and now into a democratic freedom. So for now, let's confirm and exit that. And with that, we have So Africa has been liberated mostly, which now also leads to the Americans potentially being stranded here. I don't actually know if they'll end up because these states aren't actually part of the Moscow Accord. So the liberated states have decided not to join the Moscow Accord, which means that Nigeria has been restored to its original borders, and the new states are now going to run their own free elections. And that means we can now completely concentrate on the Portuguese border, which means all the troops that we're currently having deployed to Nigeria can join south, and we can get the full army onto that front line. 24 divisions, 10th Army under Shatilov. All the troops will now arrive here and be available for combat. We are making our way south here, which means we might have an opportunity to cut off some Portuguese divisions. The destroyers, all of them need to repair, so that little force is not going to do an awful lot. And we can now return all the troops that are still stationed in France and bring them either eastwards or back to Russia. We're definitely burning through large amounts of fuel at this point, seeing how things are going here and how our fleet is underway. But we should now have 2 additional ships, and I wonder where they are. Yes, we have apparently not just gotten Republik and Patrie. So it looks like we've got the Republik and the Patrie with their escorts as well. So we got 2 battleships, 1 light cruiser, 24 destroyers, and 1 submarine. The submarine can join the reserves, and we will use these to refill the existing fleets here. And then we'll have to probably repair these, but let's take a look at the battleships for now. We've got the Patrie, obviously with new sailors on them. So some of the French sailors seem to have joined, so some experience remains. But that is a twin gun design, so not particularly powerful. And obviously lacking the MIO as well. We might send these into... I was thinking of sending them into refits, but I think it's not particularly worth it. We are going to just get the whole fleet to repair everything that needs to repair. We've got a few destroyers that could be upgraded, but I think it's not particularly worth it. We'll take this French fleet on in the Atlantic theater. All right, so that fleet will join Admiral Kolchak, and once they're repaired, then we can. I think it's too much. It's too small to operate. I might actually peel off the capable forces, join them with the main fleet, just to bolster that a little bit. But we only have 4 battleships here against the Americans, which I think had 6, if I'm not mistaken, in the theater. So that would bolster that a little bit. And I might spin off some of the older destroyers. I might get some of the older destroyers out and start using them for either in reserve or for convoy escorts where needed. So with that, we'll have to see if we now have That's just an ace pilot. Do we now have the decisions what to do with France? That should come up, shouldn't it? Is it anywhere? Not right now, surprisingly. So this seems to be not something that has. Well, maybe this comes up after the event hits. So yeah, for now, I'll bring the troops that are not needed here back to first back to Russia or back to the Far East, where we are going to begin engaging Japan relatively soon. And that means we can concentrate our African operation onto Congo, where we do have an air base, but we currently can't get there because and I can't invite the Congo because that mechanic has been disabled in the mod. So there's not an awful lot I can do about this unless I was going to use the console, which I might actually, to get the Congo officially. Right now, the government's still reluctant, but I think if we are proving ourselves successful here, then Congo might end up joining the Moscow Accord. Okay, and that brings us back to the Congo front for now, where we are still waiting for additional troops, and everybody wants to have a market access. We've got some exiled divisions. Yeah, these are supposed to be returning to Congo. So let's get them to Leopoldville. Can we not get them out from there? We should be able to. Yeah, and then please make your way to Lagos. And I think this division as well. Make your way to Lagos for now. And from there you can ship out towards Congo, or we ask Cameroon for military access. They're currently disinclined to do that, so yeah, they're still organizing their government, so not a problem. Right. Meanwhile, we are looking at a potential opportunity here to. Let's see if we can push the Portuguese out from here. 2 Portuguese divisions, relatively well dug in, but with some firepower from the flanks, we should be able to get them moved out from there without too much trouble. I'm still trying to get Elizabethville connected, but since we've got some troops available here now, I think we can shorten the front lines a little bit, especially that. There's two Portuguese divisions dug in, but we've got some firepower here as well. And yeah, breaking open the Portuguese defenders here would be, opening up the territory would be a good thing. These are just convoys, nothing specific. The submarines are significantly more capable at sinking convoys than the naval bombers. We've lost 1 submarine to the destroyers, which is unfortunate, but we really do need to get the scout situation sorted out. Until then, the fleet is currently sitting in Brest, but we are still waiting for 94 days for the advanced submarine. I might start actually with some early ones, simply because I want to, and then we'll just refit them as we go, because it is taking too long, and I really do want to get a long-range scouting force out. So let's have a quick look what that would look like. I could go 2 ways here. I could go with a cruiser. So we've got the we've got the modern cruiser hull. So that would have a base range of 4,500 kilometers, and I don't think I can 50 knots cruiser. I don't think I can extend that. So I don't think there's any equipment on cruisers for extended range. No. So 4,500 kilometers would be the biggest. The cruiser's submarine, however, has a base range of 5,000 kilometers. So unfortunately, it's very slow with the old engines in it. But if we're obviously going to equip them with torpedoes. But these are mostly scout submarines. So if they find a convoy, they can take it on. But other than that, I'm going to stick a fuel tank in here, which extends the range to 6,000 kilometers. We're going to put a radar onto it and an additional fuel tank. So with that, we've got a 7,000 kilometer range on these things, which will allow them to make extremely long-range operations very slowly because of old engines. But once we have the better engines, better torpedoes, we'll equip those, and they should be able to spot enemy shipping anywhere. If they spot transports out in the open, they can hunt them. Otherwise, they will do their best to get away from it. But that, and I'm going to have to, not entirely, okay, M-class submarines is a fallback. So I am going to, we're going with animals. So this is going to be the Okun class. There we go. Okun class submarine. And extremely long-range cruiser sub. So let's begin making these. And I'm just going to schedule. I am going to schedule a few production lines because I want to have. I'm probably going to send them out in pairs of 3, 4 or something, maybe 5 pairs of 5. Generally, with scout cruisers, I use twins, so a pair of 2. With low combat instructions, but with these things, if they find enemy convoys then that are unguarded in their long range patrols, then they can take these out. So maybe pairs of 5. So I'm going to need a fair few of them, which means I am going to set up quite a few lines, and I'm just going to complete the old Nachimovets once they're finished. How many lines is this currently? 3. So yeah, let's put up 3 lines for the Okuns, and then we've got some other stuff that we're going to be building once the rest is finished. But that hopefully starts enabling us to run some actual scout operations, which we currently can't do. Right, troops are still moving into place here in the central areas. I'm moving parts of the 6th Army over eastwards, and I've also got the 3rd Army on the move back to Moscow for now. We might use them to reinforce, but to reinforce in the east. We currently have only the somewhat understrength 13th Army here, so we might be in need of another field army. Yeah, that might actually not be a bad idea. So since we'll send them back to Moscow, let them recover, because they had a few equipment shortages, and then we'll send them eastwards for a potential fight against the Japanese. It's also not a bad idea to have additional troops there. All right, let's get back to the situation in Congo, where I think we are making some progress here. These troops are very inexperienced, obviously. But that goes. The Portuguese are better trained, but I think the Russian troops will prove themselves combat capable. Although these 2 divisions, I'm going to have to leave for a while. We'll need additional troops here to, especially the mountain specialists. I might have to give them specific in a separate front line, because they'll be useful in the east, but I think they'll right now be more useful here. So we're going to get the mountain divisions set up here for an operation across the mountains to take the port in southeastern Angola and cut off the whole Atlantic flank here. Rest of the troops is just on defensive duty for the time being, but we can make some operations there once their planning is complete, because they're inexperienced, so planning is essential here. Latvia has put forth an interesting proposal seeking investment from nearby governments and the deepening of economic interdependency. The Latvians have drafted a plan for the creation of a jointly owned industrial holdings company. Yeah, sure. Sounds great. More economic cooperation within the Moscow economic organization, please. Where is my France has capitulated? Now you can decide what to do with it decision. Well, we'll hold off on that for a little bit, but eventually I do wish to not be occupying France. And I think right now the resistance is relatively low, but obviously the resistance targets are high. What are we currently occupying France under? Civilian oversight, which makes sense. We're also occupying Malta and Malta as well. So I'm still waiting to see if if there are any decisions. Well, we have liberated all the colonial territory as promised. Okay. So here we're just making small incursions into Portuguese-held territory, just pushing them back a little bit. But I think, yes, we have supply in Elizabethville, so that's ideal, which means we can now begin. Oh, this is actually empty. We might as well just push forward and see if we can cut off the Portuguese in the mountains there. And Tarasov has been captured. That is less than ideal because he was operating in Japan and he was the only one operating in Japan. And we're still actually busy trying to rescue someone. So I might have to pull. Where are we currently? They're still in Africa, are they? I don't think. Okay, I do need them. I do need them in Africa, but I might get. See if I can mount another rescue. I don't think I can, but I might have to send another operative over to Japan just to see if we can salvage the intelligence network in Tokyo. Yes, we can. So at least to maintain the intelligence network, such that once we're done here, we can mount the next rescue. Is there? I think we might. Yes, I'll do the decryption first. We might do the unfortunately named pills at some point. Okay, we have actually. Okay, so it seems that the fleet has operated successfully. So I do have to pay closer attention. So it seems the fleet has operated successfully, and we have sunk 10 Canadian destroyers out in the Atlantic. So that has actually been a successful operation. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm still calling it bugged because there are more destroyers up here that we're currently not dealing with. But that was the first noticeable success against the Canadians that are hunting our destroyer groups. We don't know currently where the Americans are. So here we've just got some more convoys going back and forth. But yeah, we're hunting down the enemy convoy escorts quite successfully. So the fleet had sullied out of Brest and has successfully intercepted some Canadian destroyers. That's good to know. We do have more destroyers operating out here in the North Atlantic Ridge. So the Canadians seem to be covering their convoy routes now quite successfully. We'll have to see if we can operate there. And we don't have much space on the airports just yet because they are still being upgraded. So we'll have to wait until that's all done before we can bring forces to bear for operations. There's some exiled Americans, and we are apparently holding half of Corsica. Who's holding the other half? Sardinia itself, but we're holding the north of Corsica by the looks of it. Can't liberate that yet because the decisions aren't being made available. So if that doesn't pop up anytime soon, then I'm going to have to use the console to do this. I would have assumed that the game has provided, or that the mod has provided for that. But for now, we'll just do it like this. Okay. Troops are still arriving. Troops are still arriving here in Africa, and getting their experience while we are. We're trying to enact the first encirclements here, and see if we can manage to cut off this Portuguese division in the north there. Do have to keep it. Yeah, we've lost a submarine here to the destroyer group, but we have also caught 5 American convoys, which is essential. So that is always good news. I do have to keep an eye on these all planned naval invasions. I do have to keep an eye on the actual naval combat going on in case the fleet goes out. All right, counterattack, but we'll be sending reinforcements in. Still sort of cautious operations at this point, and we're waiting for the rest of the mountain divisions to arrive to begin making aggressive moves here. There is a tank division here, so that's interesting to know. So we are going to need at least 2 armored divisions or 2 anti-tank divisions here as well. So we'll be bringing these in too, and they will be assisting the mountaineers against that Canadian armored division that is situated there. So still some troop reshuffles, but now decisions. No, it's just ace pilots. Okay, nothing yet. This is all rebuild. This is other stuff, but it looks like no decisions just yet. Anyway, we'll wait for a bit. We'll entertain ourselves in Africa, and we have to wait anyway for the infrastructure to be completed elsewhere before we can start operations in Spain. All right, we've managed to encircle that Portuguese division, and again, I haven't paid attention to the naval combat here. We've sunk 2 Canadian destroyers off the coast of Ireland. We have American cruisers here now showing up as well. We've sent 6 convoys to the bottom, and then the submarines are retreating. So the submarine operations are quite successful, and the fleet is now beginning to actually operate successfully out in the western approaches, catching anything that is trying to resupply, that is trying to deal with our submarines, which are working away at getting Ireland cut off, because that is one of the Ireland and Portugal are Spain technically as well are the last remaining outposts. Not entirely certain why we have begun combat operations, but these are okay. It's friendly divisions moving in. The mountaineers are here, so I think despite the fact we are seeing some Americans here, but the front lines are reasonably open, so I think we can begin the assaults towards the. We've already taken the first supply position. I think we can simply begin the assaults here without much further ado, because there's an awful lot of defenders in the area. So we'll get the mountaineers up into the Pyrenees. We're still in February; it's still reasonably cold. Rest of the troops can fan out and simply get into occupying enemy territory where where the front lines are undefended, and we'll simply make our way through here. We have potential here to cut off some enemy troops. The Indians are in fact coming ahead of us. Let's pin these 2 Spanish divisions into the mountains. See that we can close the gap before the enemy gets there, and may as well begin aggressive operations against Barcelona and see if we can push the Canadian defenders out before they can establish themselves. We have a mechanized guards division available that should make reasonably short work of things, and I think here we are close to. We're actually reasonably close to trapping a fair amount of enemy troops here if the mountaineers can get into position rapidly. So overall, it seems that Spain is falling about as quickly as France, simply because the Entente hasn't managed to get sufficient troops into the territories, and we can clear out even without air support. We can clear out the enemy positions quite quickly. We're about to take Barcelona, and then from there on, there's very little there's very little opposition available here. So America has a lot of divisions, but they're struggling to get them across the Atlantic. Battle for the Atlantic is the important one. We have naval combat in the Bay of Biscay. That is another screening group here, trying to get this to save the transports. And we've still got the American divisions, the American cruisers here that are trying to to chase our submarines away. We've lost an aircraft, but without much success against these American transports. All right, Belarus has elections. Most of the old parties of Belarus have collapsed, are in open resistance, and one can see that much of Belarus is apathetic to its new overlords. As the elections of the autonomy were announced, political life was suddenly reawakened, starting with the formation of new political parties. Out of the ashes of the BSDP, which dominated much of the Belarusian political scene, has risen the Belarusian Party of Social Federalists. The party stands for the continuation of people's democracy in Belarus, pacifism and social programs, and the defense of people's freedom together with Russian left-wing parties. On the right, the bid failed to become Balachowicz, failed to become head of a united right-wing group. That tends to happen on the right. Instead, former General Hassan Kanapatsky has risen into prominence as the main conservative voice, calling Belarusians to accept the new realities. Instead of pointlessly resisting, focus on rebuilding the country. Around him, center-right Belarusian Democratic Union has been formed. I think the center-right Belarusian Democratic Union seems to be the one to give us. I don't think we have any resistance left, to be honest. No, there's no resistance left. So it really doesn't make it much of a difference. We can either get 3% base stability or 5%, but we've got sufficient stability that we don't really need to care. So do we want to improve the standing of the left or of the center-right in Russia? I mean, we've got over 50%. I'm somewhat wary that we're becoming a single-party state. So I think it would not be bad for the left to get a bit of a say in Belarus. And with that, we have the first elections in the new territories. All right, back to the front lines and naval combat as well. Oof, that is the combined American. This is what I'm looking out for. This is the combined American-Canadian fleet. So this is a battle group that is going to be very difficult to take on with the available forces. What do we've got? We've got 12 battleships, 12 battleships, 5 battle cruisers, 7 heavy cruisers, and a massive number of escort ships. So this plus 1 carrier. So this is not something we can easily take on in the Mediterranean, which also means that our current fleet that is on patrol here might actually have to return to port for strike force, because we're going to get them to just return to port for now, and might even stay in Sicily for now. We'll return to port in Naples, but I think with the available forces, we cannot possibly contest that concentration of firepower. Now, this is going to they are going to be pushed out once we take away Spain, Portugal, and their holdings here. But that is a major fleet that we will definitely struggle to take on. So what did I say? 5 battle cruisers and 12 battleships. So we've got overall, we have 4 of the refitted Ismails. We've got 2 French battleships of questionable quality, and we've got the two. Where are they? Oh, are we done with the refit? Yes, we're done with the refit. We've got the 2 ships that are currently linking up with the fleet that have been refitted. But yeah, we are against that combined American-Canadian fleet. We're going to need more firepower. So we need more modern battleships. That is going to take a long time, however. We have the 2 Tsar Vladimir class battleships. Super battleships coming in as well, so that might give us a bit more, lend us a bit more firepower. And I think I'm going to change the deployment to let's put them into Petrograd. I'm more comfortable with that, which means that even if we are taking on Japan on the mainland, it's not really going to get. We're not really going to get very far into Japan proper, simply because we are not going to be able to have the fleet available to deal with them. And it seems that my railway guns have vanished again. That tends to happen every time. Oh no, we've still got 1 here, but it looks like. For some reason, they have a propensity for vanishing whenever we're doing a peace conference. So let me bring these, at least the available ones, south, so we can have these as far as we can get them. So we have these available on the front lines. Whew. Okay, North Atlantic Ridge, that was this one. Bay of Biscay, that was submarine operations, and Western approaches. And yeah, I think the battle here, this battle is going to end very rapidly. But it's very good to know that we know what forces are available. And currently we don't yet have the Navy, and Boris in Petrograd is feeling vindicated. That we would need in order to make things happen. All right, we have here, however, now some forces available, and we have managed to destroy that single Portuguese division, which means they have capitulated, which means also that territory is more open now here. So let's concentrate a few more forces and see if we can manage to complete more encirclements. Not ideal terrain for our mobile forces here, but there is also empty front lines. So concentrating troops here means that we'll have to change out. I might have to shorten this front line here and create a separate one for these divisions, just to make sure that we're distributing these correctly, because otherwise we're running a little short on the mobile divisions in the east, which I need more in the open terrain. But we're waiting for the anti-tank forces, because there's a Canadian tank division here before we launch any assaults. But we have, in the meantime, a potential. There are 2 divisions here. In the meantime, we have a potential opportunity for an assault here. And if we support that with these 2 divisions that are currently available, we should have sufficient firepower to deal with these 2 Portuguese troops here. Okay, we have sunk 6 convoys, and the Americans have not been able to do much about it. That said, the fleet needs to go hide, because if this fleet is caught out in the open, they don't stand a chance against that combined massive fleet of the Americans and the Canadians. But we're making progress, and we do have to wait for the. Can we speed this up? Can we get these there by rail, please? So these troops, you're going to be needed. Actually, I have to stand 2 divisions. Okay, so you're not going to be needed. But these two need to rush over here. We'll see if we can take on that tank division. It is an attack into mountains across river, which is less than ideal, so not something we want to force. but we might be able to also to just surround them. Okay, passive sonar is complete. Do I want to continue on? I will at some point have to start taking that off the naval research. I think I'm going to start, and I did start at least with one research slot. I did say I needed more. I needed larger aircraft, but we're currently not in a position to do that, so that'll have to wait. We are running a little low on raw materials, so I'm going to start excavations, and we currently don't need to trade for much here, so we can probably shrink that down a little bit, but still we need additional resources, so I'm going to get one diverted into mining tech. Okay, making progress here in Africa, but additional troops are shipping around from all areas here quite rapidly. So also these troops to relocate, please take the rails, otherwise this is going to take forever. Yeah, taking on this tank division there is not going to be easy, but we might have to, additional troops are actually repositioning along the front lines here, so we might have to be careful not to get outmaneuvered anywhere. But we are, let's delete that line here. We have taken a position in the mountains east. There is there's one airport here, but no, and an interesting railway construct, but no further. The next supply hub is down here, but we've got Elizabethville, which means we do have some leniency in terms of supply. I'm going to leave this division here. We might be able to take on the Portuguese there. Quick look at the naval battles. What have we dealt with? We have sunk a destroyer and 5 convoys. That's good to see. And with a secondary attack, we've sunk 3 destroyers and 4 additional convoys. So the Canadians are definitely losing shipping in the North Atlantic, and the Americans as well. And the Americans obviously are trying to bring things across. And the fleet is engaged with American convoy escorts. So fleet's out and about, and we're taking on 10 American destroyers on convoy escort duty after some Irish transports here have been sunk. All right, that was one of the that was the advanced medium dual purpose. So we can design a cruiser now, and I am just going to go through I might divert this one into hulls, to be honest. We don't have much. We haven't dealt with enemy submarines massively, so I think we're good on that tech. I probably prioritize. We'll start with carrier research, because that is something that has been on our minds for a long time, but hasn't really been very active. And obviously here we have to deal with encircled troops, and then also increase our aggression. But overall, we're making slow progress into Spain, simply because there's too much going on at sea right now, and I have to keep looking. But in that vein, I think the last thing we do for today is we are going to design ourselves a new light cruiser, and that is, we're going to go with admirals, and that is going to be the Admiral Alexeyev class. So let's rename that. All right, and then we get cruiser engines. We have the destroyer and cruiser designer, so get the benefits from that. Very fast ship, but we also now have modern cruiser armor for these things. It's not an awful lot, but it is some of it. And we've got the dual purpose secondaries that we can put in. Other than that, I am thinking radar cruiser with do we have the this is the one I was looking for. Yeah, the 152 millimeter dual purpose cannons. So that these things are quite capable as anti-aircraft cruisers. And I am inclined to mostly just fill them up with. I might put one torpedo launcher in there. And the rest can get the dual purpose cannons. So that is effectively the equivalent of something like the American Worcester class light cruisers planned at the end, or the we've got 5 batteries of 152 millimeter dual purpose cannons. They can throw up an insane amount of firepower. We've got radar. We've got dual purpose 127 millimeter secondaries. And with that, if we compare that to the Admiral Ushakov, we're faster. We've got more hit points. We have better light attack, and we have better armor. We've got some torpedo capabilities, and we have an incredible amount of anti-air firepower. So the Admiral Alexeyev is going to become the mainstay of escort ships, heavy escorts for the core of the battle fleet. It's currently battleships, but eventually also carriers. So we are going to need a fair few of these. So I'm going to start with 2 lines of 3 for now, and I might do 3 groups of 5 on these, and then we'll shift things around as it goes. I think I'm still constructing a few more dockyards down the line, but we are going to need additional dockyards in our own territory, preferably not in Allied territory. But I think we're mostly built up here. We've got a bit more space here. Okay, yeah, we've got a bit more space for additional dockyards. So I'm going to prioritize that. Lots of infrastructure to repair, but additional dockyards so we can start building up these cruisers. We are going to need modern destroyers as well, but the research is still lagging a little bit there. And I don't want to... we'll start once we've got the advanced lightship hull. I don't necessarily need to wait until we've got the modern destroyers, but we're definitely modernizing the Navy as rapidly as we possibly can at this point. And we are going to hopefully begin clearing out, winning the Battle of the Atlantic, which is a prerequisite for the eventual invasion of the Americas, where the Portuguese have their last stand here, and then Africa will be liberated. And I think Portugal here is collapsing relatively quickly, unless they get significant reinforcements. But we're actually even seeing friendly troops now coming in to support the operations. And once the Kronstadt project is complete, then we will also begin operations against the interests of Japan on the mainland and begin with pushing them back. We're not going to have the Navy to challenge Japan for now, but that'll come at a later stage. And obviously the advances through the mostly undefended lines in Spain here are going to continue. I think we can get through Spain relatively quickly. They're trying to send in additional troops, but they are struggling to get across the Atlantic, and the losses so far on the Russian side have been very light, whereas the United States have already lost about 150,000 men, of a lot of them on the way across the Atlantic, falling prey to Russian submarines. And the Americans haven't been able to deploy they've concentrated on the Mediterranean so far, haven't been able to deploy their fleet successfully to protect their convoys going towards Ireland. And the Russian submarine operations have been so far quite successful. I might actually include the Iberian coast, because I've got 4. I've got 4 groups now, so we can actually ensure that that nothing. We can even try to close the entrance to the Mediterranean here as well. So we've got good submarine coverage, and with that, I don't think we're having no, we're not including the English Channel. With that, we are covering the approaches where the main battle currently rages.